ambassador in UN says something that contradicts that, these 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 two news together show you one thing: that the Islamic Republic, which is the head of this terror octopus, is scared shitless, and their tentacles are scared shitless. Why else would be Hamas continuing to release hostages to prolong this temporary ceasefire? They know what's happening. They know this is the end. But my question is to John and anyone in the room who can actually answer it. What do you think about the new sanctions that the U.S. Treasury put on IRGC and Islamic regime? And do you think that U.S. politics have been confusing lately, them giving promises of money to the Islamic regime, and then the Islamic regime saying the 6 billion is at our hands, and then U.S. saying no, the money is frozen? This is all so confusing, and I want to know John's opinion on what is going on there. Like, I think that the Islamic regime is lying, and U.S. is playing with them. But what do you think, John?
Well, it's great to hear from you, my friend. So I think it's complex. So of the recent new sanctions on the Islamic regime, IGRC members, I think it's not enough. I think it's still not strong enough of a message. A lot more direct. All instruments of power against the Islamic regime that I hope is enacted. But it's tough, especially in an election year. I too have been confused about the money frozen, not frozen, handed over situation. I haven't really had the time to color. That's why I come to a lot of those spaces that you and others run to just listen and learn. I think the U.S. has shown a weak hand, and it does have global consequences. I know it's complex. It's not simple decisions, but I'm hoping that October 7th was not just it was a history changing moment in its awful viciousness, but in even geopolitical aspects that I hope doesn't get drowned out through like U.S. domestic policy. That the fact that the status quo with the treatment of Iran cannot continue. Like, this is personal to me. I lost soldiers because of the IGRC and the Quds Force involvement in Iraq, with little repercussion at the national state level, nation state level. And the JPOA was a failed, that should have been abandoned a long time ago. And these approaches, again, I think so. I'm actually, rather than just being a disgruntled older guy, that I do think there will be a change of approach in the very near term. And this new sanction package is a like a hint that there may be a much more stronger, not just sanction the hell out of them, close the loopholes of the existing sanctions, stop giving them any money. But I know there are complexities in that, and support the revolution. All these things that I think there's a changing, but I'm waiting to see.
My question would be to anyone in this room that answered. Thank you, John, for that. What can we do as Iranians for the US or the West or NATO or whatever you want to call it to take our representative and the think tank that represents us more seriously? Because there are ways that have been proposed by Reza Pahlavi, the Crown Prince, and Mufti, which is an Iranian think tank that truly represents the Iranians, instead of listening to Nayak and whatnot, which we have been yelling for over a year. These people do not represent us. They are reformists prompted up by the Islamic Republic so they can lobby for them and keep the Islamic Republic, the terror that is the Islamic Republic, alive. What can we do so the world will listen to Reza Pahlavi, the Crown Prince, when he says maximum pressure on IRGC and maximum support for the Iranian people, instead of releasing our funds to IRGC to use to pay for Hamas's attack on Israel? What can we do for those funds to be released to him so we can, for example, import DPNs into the country or get technological support, and some VPNs that are not working in Iran because of sanctions working, having more targeted sanctions and whatnot. What can we do for them to accept Mufti and Reza Pahlavi, the crown prince, as a representative? Like, how can we give them more credit? That is a question
So, Decado,
for the room.
how can you send the aid into Iran and not having it end up in the IRGC's hand?
There are ways. For example, I am not the crown prince, but even I have my own ways of getting, for example, funds in the country without getting in the IRGC's hands. And he has said multiple times that if the money exists, he has the channels, he has the ways of getting it to the people that are in need. One
But you see the
simple
problem,
example of
Decado,
that
though.
would be crypto.
You see the
What?
problem, though. Like, how can we trust that as people who don't know anything about anything? Like, how can we objectively say this money is going where it is, and this is legitimate when it's very muddy over there?
Okay, for example, I have a question. If you are saying providing VPNs, for example, XVPN is a VPN that I'm in Iran. I know. Is a VPN that works easily in Iran. If we distribute XVPN to Iranians, it won't do the regime any good. It won't be any help for the regime, but it will royally fuck them because they have a way around their own wi- uh, firewalls, but we don't have a way around their own firewalls. So if you're providing only a way around those firewalls, ergo the regime has no use for that. So that is something that is
No, they have used to
undeniably
track it.
hurting
They
the
track you
regime.
with it. Yeah, that's their use. They track you with it.
XVPN is a company in the US that is not owned by the Islamic regime, and they can't track you with it. The technology is using IPX. Essentially, it's untrackable. If it was trackable, I couldn't be using it right now and for a year and be alive and be talking to you because I live and breathe, unfortunately, in Tehran. And if they knew I existed, I would be dead long ago.
You can track Tor network now. That's there's ways to
You
do it.
may be able to track Tor
Not
network
me,
now.
not
You
me.
are
I know for a fact that
no 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 no
it's
no no
being
no
done.
no no no. You I meant Western modern governments, not these idiots. You don't know you don't know the extent of this. And Tor is a outdated technology. This is something newer I'm talking about, and it's just an example of they can't track something they don't have access to. Okay, they
I, I'm
need
not. I'm not.
access to
I'm not
something,
against you or anything.
and
I'm
they
just
are
asking
blocking the
questions.
internet. They are blocking the internet, and we need this as a way to go around that blockade because most of my people don't have free access to internet as of this moment we're talking, and that is a huge milestone. That is a huge thing against the people. And forget about even the maximum support thing. My question was, how about maximum pressure on IRGC? This one is not gonna cost anyone anything. We have been asking for the regime's isolation, total complete isolation, for over a year. People have been coming out in protest all over the world, not just in Iran, yelling in different languages, put IRGC terrorists on that list, isolate them financially and politically. And we have seen no one listening to us except our dear friends for over 2,500 years, the lovely people of Israel, which are, by the way, today paying for the rest of the world not listening to us.
Boaz Bismuth just published 5 hours ago about the Bivas family.
Yeah, I saw the first things that went out, but
Iris,
I
9 minutes ago, David Collier posted breaking about one of the Israeli hostages
hmm
who allegedly said that for weeks they were held at the house of a teacher in UNRWA in the person's attic.
yeah, these are the stories that are coming out.
UNRWA's neck there, he says UNRWA's neck
Uh,
deep in Hamas ties, which we've always
and
known.
then, yeah, it's crazy. And another thing, there's footage coming out of of Gaza now, of big crowds, but huge crowds. I just got a video from my friend. Huge crowds surrounding the Israeli hostages that are about to go to move forward. Not the two Russian ones, the ones who we're going to see soon, behaving like crazy. I really, really, this video, tons of people shouting terrible things towards the hostages. So you tell me, you know, what's going on, right? So they're saying like that. Not it's crazy. It's crazy. I can't. I'll see if I can post this video in the nest. I don't know if I can use it. It's really terrible.
Go ahead, Samuel. Samuel?
Hey, so I'm tracking a development right now. The USS Carney downed an Iranian-made drone launched from Yemen somewhere over the southern Red Sea. Two defense officials confirmed it. I'm trying to ID the drone right now.
Let me guess, Shahid.
No, those are all in Russia, John. They don't have any more of those. Where could they possibly have those?
Right. They don't
Can
give
I give you
things to anybody.
breaking?
Hold on.
What's breaking?
There's a breaking. Breaking
What's
from
breaking?
Almog Boker. One
What
of the
does it
released
say?
hostages says that were held for nearly 50 days in the attic of an UNRWA teacher
Yeah, that's what.
and were
Yeah,
provided with little food and no medication. Another hostage were held captive by a Gazan doctor.
no, that's insane.
And they should all be held accountable.
These
I
are
mean, we'll take.
the
I'm seeing
peaceful.
more stories. I'm seeing more stories
These are the
regarding.
peaceful citizens of Gaza, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are
Iris,
also
did you see the story of not a
Yeah.
hostage, but of Eden Nimri from Modi'in?
Yep,
It's incredible. John, I mean, is John still here?
Yeah,
incredible.
you tell us about it,
John is
Eric.
here, of course.
John,
Yeah.
I
Tell
need
us
to
the
read you
story.
this, and I'll send it. We'll post it as well, but I want to read it for everyone. Emmanuel Miller posted the story of Eden Nimri, 22, from Modi'in. She was a professional swimmer, represented the Israeli national youth swimming team, and could have evaded military service in order to further her sporting career. Instead, Eden elected to defend her homeland and enlisted in the Israeli Air Force's Flight Academy. After leaving the course, Eden volunteered for the prestigious Sky Rider unit, which operates the UAVs that collect operational intelligence for combat units deep in enemy territory. Eden served as a combat soldier and later as an officer. On October 7th, the female soldiers of the Nahal Oz military base awoke at 7 a.m. to the sounds of the base coming under attack. The IDF spotters were almost all female, none were combat soldiers and were unarmed. Eden and four of her women, all combat soldiers, raced with them to the safe room with their handguns. Within a short time, the battle began inside of the base, right next to the safe room where the unarmed women huddled together. The base's PA system called out red alert over and over in reference to a rocket attack, and then afterwards the words invasion, invasion were heard instead. Inside the safe room, Eden made contact with the armed soldiers, loaded her gun, then cocked it. The soldiers followed her lead, a move that later changed the course of the battle. The safe room had two entrances. Eden, who naturally assumed the role of battle leader in defending the room, took the left entrance and instructed the fighters to guard the right entrance. The first terrorist attempted to come through the door on the right and was shot dead by the soldiers. It was clear that the terrorists would now try the other entrance. This would in turn create an opportunity to escape through the rear. Eden readied herself by the door and ambushed the terrorists as they entered in order to hold them up and buy the others time to exit via the open door. When a group of terrorists charged with gunfire and grenades, they were met with suppressive covering fire from Eden and her handgun. These were golden seconds, precious moments that allowed 6 unarmed spotters and the 4 combat soldiers to escape unscathed to the barracks, where they stayed until an IDF force arrived to the base to liberate them. Eden fell in battle, and in so doing, she saved the lives of 10 other women serving as IDF soldiers.
Yeah, that's a big story.
It's huge.
Very huge story.
talking
So
about stories of valor and what they
yeah,
can do for a
sad
society.
story. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Iris, I want to ask. Good evening. I want to ask a question.
good
Why
evening.
the Red Cross don't go to the kidnappers the kidnaps? I don't understand.
Yeah, we are asking this question every day. Why the
What
Red
was it
Cross?
is the law? Not it's not law. University no law.
No, it's in the deal that was agreed with Hamas that the Red Cross will see the hostages that are in Gaza, but unfortunately, it's not happening. It's not happening. So you know, what can I say? I'm just like
I want to
basically
ask the military person here if it was it's not what they will do in this situation. I think so. They stop and that's all. They don't give them the it's one of the condition.
yeah, it is one of the conditions of the ceasefire. Um, to be honest, I don't know what to tell you.
Would
Mm.
we what's the consensus there in Israel about the having unarmed soldiers? Is that something that's going to not be a thing in the future after something like this?
What do you mean?
Like saying that there are IDF spotters who were unarmed. It's just thinking about that. I couldn't see any NATO military having an unarmed soldier in any
Right,
capacity
right.
in any job, no
Of
matter what it
course.
is.
No, it's not. Of course, it's not logical at
What do you
all.
think about that, John?
Sorry, I'm driving. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
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 I mean, so it's tough, right? I've seen the drone observation rooms. Um, not all locations are the same. Not all weapons are the same. So carrying a sidearm versus a weapon that a storage case, depending on the site, depending on the threat.
We can't hear
So
you
that
so well.
you're losing me.
A
Back
little
now.
bit. Yeah, but
Sorry, driving.
I'm
So
losing you.
how about now? I'm
Yep, I
driving.
know how hard it is to get a spotty connection in the mountains of Colorado.
Oh, John.
It's those damn mountains, John. It's those goddamn mountains.
It is really. It is.
You need to pull over.
I can't. I have an appointment. I can't go. I can't pull
But
over.
he's
I'm just joking.
John, my God, are you like telling him what to do? It's like, yeah,
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
yes.
Sorry, it's complex. The idea that they're just a bunch of unarmed soldiers, the location matters, the type of armed, a handgun, like in the article, versus a rifle, maybe in the storage area, MOS that doesn't normally, depending on where they're at, what base, whatever. I'm sure, like this was a history-changing moment. It'll change the posture of Southern Israel forces, and yes, but it's not. It wouldn't be uncommon for a situation like that not to have a loaded weapon on you. But you know, this is in hindsight seems odd, but not necessarily.
I have a quick question for Ariel and Iris.
Go ahead.
Do you guys feel, because I know I do, I mean, I know my answer. Do you guys feel that maybe it's time Israel started executing Hamas prisoners?
All right, we're not gonna do that here. Iris, what do you think?
No, no,
That's
No, we're not having that discussion.
don't want to talk about it. Not, no.
Fair enough.
I've learned not through personal experience, but that if you say things like that, particularly about the CCP and like spies that work for them, they will nuke your account and you'll never get it back.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The CCP will nuke my account?
If you say there was a situation that I know nothing about where you tweet out say there's like a member of the U.S. government who leaks documents to the CCP. They're indicted by the government, and you're like, I support the death penalty for treason. That'll get your account nuked.
Wow. I'm new to this, so I appreciate the heads up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happened to one of my close friends. He was there was a situation where an ex-U.S. Air Force pilot had leaked classified documents and even went over to China to train the CCP Air Force on U.S. Air Force tactics. I'm sure, Eric, you can agree that's literally treason. That's like the definition of treason.
Believe it is, yes.
And what is the constitutionally prescribed thing for high crime of treason of that magnitude?
I believe it's death.
Yeah, so but that is not okay on Twitter to say. Just leave it at that.
Yeah, I know someone who knows someone who has a name start with S. That
I apologize. The only reason it came to mind is because I listened to Masab the other day give a video, or it was a speech or something, and and I think it was point form tweet about what he thought Israel should do, and that was one of the items he was saying they should start doing.
But we can't do it as long as we have captives there.
They don't care about their characters. They don't care.
All right, there's a difference though between capital punishment, as in like due process, and then you end up with that, and just shooting them. So people could misunderstand you, and in either case, it will be misunderstood. So I would rather
For
move
sure.
on.
I'm on vacation right now, and extremely still difficult to disconnect given my situation. Beautiful and everything, and my mind and heart is still stuck with my people.
Yep.
Guys, I have a question. If you can please someone answer, because I'm really confused about it. I know if there's a country in a war with another country, the international law of crime wars apply over there. But what about a militia fighting a country? Does that law apply also on it, or it doesn't?
Theoretically, yes, but they not abide to it.
Can you have a war with a militia?
So
Is also a question.
you can blame them for war crimes or crimes against humanity, but they're anyhow not gonna abide it.
So let's take what's happening right now in Gaza, because Hamas is a militia. So if Israel caught those people and they, prove it that they killed those people and they give the names of the victims, what should be the punishment? Is it jail? Is it capital punishment? I just want to know.
Under Israeli law,
Yes,
there is no
Israel.
capital punishment. There's only ever been
No.
one person.
There is a possibility of capital, but they never.
But it's only ever been used once, and it was for Adolf Eichmann.
Yeah. You're right. Normally, the military persecution doesn't demand that. I think it was demanded once and refused, and now they're talking about using it. And I myself don't think it's a good idea that Israel will use a death penalty, because the terrorists will do just what the Irgun did when the British were about to hang some of his terrorists. They just kidnapped 3 sergeants, British sergeants, and they threatened to hang them if their members will be executed, and they were executed. So they hanged the sergeants, and actually Britain didn't after that didn't use the punishment of death penalty. for Jewish captives in Palestine back then in British mandate. So I think that if Israel would start using a death penalty, it will backsplash on her, and this is what will happen. And when the terrorists will find that the threat of beheading in television of Israeli is so major to the Israeli public, they will use it even if we won't execute people. So this is my opinion about general death penalty for terrorists. But in this case, Israel suggested to initiate a special law just for this case, just as we have for the Nazis, kind of tribunal of war crimes, special law only for these acts, for those who participated, for Hamas and Jihad Islami, that will trial and will have the authority to execute those who are participated in war crimes in
So
this
okay, for
massacre.
the if Israel
At
capture
life,
capture
there is
no,
hostages at the moment. There is hostages in the hand of
I'm
Hamas.
not I'm
I
talking
don't
about
think it's
From
after.
important at
practical
all.
point
Yeah,
of view,
No, no,
from
no. But I want to know,
just
I
will
need
just
to
to
Israel?
go
finish,
now.
just
Will
one
Israel?
sentence, just one
Oh,
sentence. From
sure, sure.
practical point of view, as long as we have captives there, it's not it's danger for them, for the hostages, and the family of the hostages really begged, cried for populist members of Knesset that um, started debating on that and claiming that they want to pass a law for that. They said, they begged and cried, it's not the time, and they were right.
Okay, but does Israel consider the Hamas combatant as a war prisoners, or they consider them like America didn't consider Al Qaeda fighters as a war prisoner? So if they don't consider them war prisoners, what do they consider them?
It depends if Gaza is
According
considered part of Israel or not.
according to the behavior of Israel towards those captives, vis-a-vis the international law of war, they are treated as prisoners of war in some manners, because, for example, according to the international law, you can't recaptive a prisoner that was freed in exchange of prisoners.
Are you sure?
That was I never saw this law, but I was told by one
Oh,
of
I
my
thought you were saying that that's a
colleagues.
law. I was like, what are you talking? I was like, are you sure that's a law? It sounds silly.
No, I heard
Mm.
it from someone that told me that it's not illegal
Oh, of
according
course
to
not. It's not that.
international law.
That would be actually ridiculous.
They can't recaptive them.
So you have to try them somewhere. So, for example, there was a problem with the terrorist or the terrorists in general, where to try them, and that's where
That is
Guantanamo
still an
happened.
issue we are working the kinks out of Gitmo.
Right. I mean, that's why Guantanamo was created, because you can't like try them, or you don't want to try them in the U.S. At the same time, you have to try them somewhere.
That's complicated, to be honest. It's very complicated.
No,
I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
even
Guantanamo.
because we have
understand.
we have like a military commission for Gitmo, and then there's all sorts of questions about what rights apply to the military commission and which ones don't. That's been litigated by the Supreme Court for the better part of a decade, 2 decades.
Okay, Sean, I'm going to watch some stuff with my daughter and to talk to my friends in the hospital, just to chill a little bit. If I have some
Awesome.
news, yeah, I might. If you're still here later on, I'll come for 10, 15 minutes. But I'm just going to try and focus and be like,
I understand.
Don't threaten us. Don't threaten us with your
No, but
religion.
we're having a good. We were here for a few hours. I was here for a few hours, Ariel. You only came an hour ago. You were sleeping. Anyway, so okay, my
You were
dears. I'll probably
sleeping.
see you later. Nah, 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 nah. See you later.
Mars.
Alligator.
Bye, bye, alligators.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Yes. I love how Piotr is just chilling here, but not actually here. Very on brand.
You know that the situation that all the employees over there with UNRWA and all the UN and the ICRC are actually cooperating with Hamas, and now Biden is sending them humanitarian aid and money. I don't understand what's going on over here. Should the UN actually cooperate with them? Should
You know
Biden?
my opinion on my friend.
Yeah.
I,
Mm.
I, sorry, can I say something?
Sure.
I think that
Even to some things it's even better.
we really, sorry, very new to the X thing. And I was at another meeting last night, a kind of different subject. And I heard the host say some really, really fascinating things. And she kind of talked about like ways that they were going to make their point and like get all this public opinion on their side and like make their point through public opinion. Because if that's what TikTok's doing,
I prefer that to terrorism.
well, yeah, that's what I meant to say. Like even extremism, like we don't like that like save any of those thoughts until we try kind of beating them at their own game in terms of and like in not even in violent ways, like little things, like I don't know, someone said something about like the even the algorithms of this site, like the more time, even if you don't agree with like someone's statement but you want it to be seen more, like it, repost it, comment on it, because like every time that gets clicked on, that gets us pushed towards the front of things. I don't know, maybe that's stuff that like everybody already knows, but I I had other thoughts, but I kind of forgot them for the second. Sorry.
No apologies necessary.
Thank you for coming and sharing.
Yeah.
Got any more updates on Venezuela, Samuel? I know you've been watching that closely. I just wanted a quick question, see if you got anything.
It looks like there's some just like militant like skirmishes, but nothing too big.
That's pretty significant.
Yeah, that's still significant stuff actually going on.
To be honest,
By the
Sean,
way,
Venezuela is a very rich country with oil, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Guys, it's fascinated. Look to Iraq; it's very rich with oil. Libya is very rich with oil. Algeria is very rich with oil and gas, and Venezuela. But they are failed states, all of
Yes.
them.
It's because socialism is a failed ideology.
Exactly, exactly.
We just we have somebody new that just joined us. Daniel, 7 days in Entebbe. I was reading your profile.
Yeah, that's right.
Amazing.
Yeah, thanks. I actually had a question for Ariel. What do you think happened with Ehud Barak?
Ariel?
Ariane.
He's gone to sleep.
He's probably meditating. What do you mean? What's the question based on?
Well, he kind of disappeared. He left the country really quickly. And yeah, I
No, he
just found
didn't
that kind of
leave.
interesting.
I don't
That's a
think he
little
left,
weird.
but he's
When?
he's
When
in.
did he leave the country? Like yesterday? Like what?
No, I mean, like after October the 7th, he seemed to leave quite quickly, and it just felt a little odd.
No.
I
It
don't
was
know.
just a spin, just a spin. But he's anyhow. He lives in. I think he has an apartment in New York, and he's spending there at least half of the year.
Yeah, he goes back and forth to New York and Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Someone mentioned previously Guantanamo. The fact that United States used Guantanamo is not for able to be able to trial them to death, because there is a death penalty in United States. They used Guantanamo so they can interrogate those prisoners.
Which
Not
is illegal in
under
the
the
United States. Yeah.
what? Yeah, that's right.
All right,
Sam,
hold on. I'm hearing a whole bunch of
hold
different
on, Sam.
things
One
that.
second. 1 second. What I have to say is very important. Sean, I have to go. I suggest you find another co-host, either Sam or Mr. Pickles or
Okay.
Ariel or whoever.
Thank you, Eric.
All
Well,
right.
hold on,
Calvin.
Liberty. Let's move on from this subject.
We'll see you all later.
I'll see you. See you later, Eric.
Go ahead, Sam.
Hey, real quick. So, like, you can't execute a prisoner of war based on them just being a prisoner
Samuel,
of
let's move
war.
on. Let's move on.
They
We lost
they
two
have to
co-hosts.
Hold
they
on.
have to be tried and convicted of a crime in which the country that's keeping them um, you can't just you can't just capture somebody and execute them. Terrorist organizations do that. If they're tried and convicted of a crime in that country, then sure, but that doesn't happen very few far in between. And then in terms of like interrogation, there you can question a prisoner. That's not against any sort of rule. The terms in which prisoners have to be kept is they have to be kept humanely. So just keep that into consideration.
Right. Very interesting day. I asked Colonel Spencer what he thought about the Venezuela thing. He said it's crazy. I'm like that's the least descriptive thing I've ever heard him say.
Well, Sean, there was a time, I'll give you an example. There was a time where we were allowed to do what's called battlefield interrogation and tactical questioning, which it sounds like super in depth. It's not. It's just a line of questioning we're allowed to ask people to determine if we leave them where we find them or if we place them under custody and take them with us. That specific line of questioning, one, had to be pre-established prior to the execution of the mission, and two, all of the questions had to be approved by some authority at the time. Now, that's not always the case, and it's not so much like detrimental. That was just given the current ROE in that area during that specific time. And it wasn't really for like a risk mitigation. It was really just to like avoid unnecessarily apprehending and moving people and creating work for other people on the back end. Because once you're placed into custody, you do have certain rights, and one of the rights is you're also afforded to being returned to the area in which you came from, which nobody wants to do. So oftentimes we would just
Samuel,
let those people go.
Samuel, to be honest with you, in wartime, in conflict zones,
Let's
I don't think.
hold on. Let's move away from talking about.
Yeah, but I will say one thing. I will say this point, and that's it. I don't think the normal law will apply over there because
No,
Horrible things
it
happen in the
wasn't.
country.
They have a military commission. We already.
No, I know. The problem is people always talk about the law they know, the civilians. They don't know what's the military law. So people mix between both of them.
Well,
And
no.
in the end,
If we're talking about the Gitmo detainees, they're not under military law either. It's very weird.
that's weird.
Yeah, you could watch a 10 or 15-hour documentary just about the weird legal predicament that is, and how that's been litigated to the Supreme Court for fucking 20 years. But we need to move on.
What are you cooking?
Fish.
Go ahead, Nog. I'm going down.
Thanks, guys. Ariel, in regards to that poll from yesterday that we were talking about, I'm just wondering what your perspective is on why it's so high in terms of the bad or ill will that the Palestinians have towards the Israelis and a one or two state solution. Do you think it's mostly just that again, I touched upon this yesterday, that the facts that they're getting on the ground there are just significantly different than the facts we're getting in the Western world and Israel? Because again, I speak to a lot of pro-Palestinians that are in the Western world, and they refuse to believe a lot of the things that your conventional news outlets are telling us in terms of obviously massive amounts of civilians dying on October 7th. There just doesn't seem to get through to a significant amount of people in the Western world. I can't even imagine the news that's being fed to the people in Gaza. So, if we were dealing with the same set of facts, I think they'd be a lot more sympathetic to the Israeli people, but that's just not the case.
What do you mean that people don't believe that the numbers of the casualties
Not just
is
that,
true?
I think there's this narrative with people, probably on the ground in Gaza, that the operation of October 7th, most of the people that died there were either obviously a part of the, and again, I'm not saying this is my opinion at all, but it's not my opinion, actually, that it was mostly military combatants, or that it was the Israelis that were responsible for it. So if that's their line of thinking, then it's more understandable that they're sympathetic to Hamas, right? So again, they're completely lacking facts, but that's why those polls are the way they are, right?
No, I can answer
The
it in
Hamas,
20 seconds. In 20 seconds.
Again, that's just a question, right? So I'm not.
No, absolutely, no, because I hear it all the time. If me, Sergeant Samuel, Adams, dies in a car crash tomorrow, at my funeral, I'm going to receive military honors. They're going to mention my rank and my place of service. That doesn't mean I was in the moment at the time of death, uh, operating in some sort of military capacity. If, Sergeant, Piotr was laying in bed and he had the weekend off because he was serving, he was observing a holiday, but on Tuesday rolls around, he goes back to his military place of duty. If he's killed, even though he's not killed in the line of duty, he was still an active duty service member at the time, regardless of the death. So when they put out a list of names of individuals with their rank, that does not mean they died with a uniform and a gun in their hand. It means at the current time of their death, they were serving in the military. Does that make sense?
It does. It's just, I
no,
think,
but it's
with the
not.
amount of misinformation that people are getting in the Western world with all their access to news, you can only imagine the propaganda that is being fed in Gaza to make them think a certain way about the Israeli people and this conflict, and specifically. So when there's a poll given to them in regards to how they feel about Israelis or a one or two state solution, we're talking about indoctrinated people, much like I would say the people in Japan during World War II, right? So you can get some of your answers on how you can resolve that with time as well, but we're talking about a completely indoctrinated set of people that are just not dealing with the same set of facts that we are, right? So that's where the problem lies. I don't think they're innately, I don't think anyone here would say this, but I don't think they're innately bad or evil people. It's just this indoctrination campaign that's happened over the past, up to 75 years, or let's say 20 years under Hamas, has created this scenario we're in, where they're not going to want to live with Israeli people if everything they've heard about them is true, which we know is not. But yeah, so I think that just explains the poll that came out yesterday, and that's I think one of the main things that the IDF and Israeli government has to combat here is making sure we're all dealing with the same set of facts, including the Gazans and people in the Judea and Samaria.
What the Hamas at first wanted to document and to spread the movies just as ISIS did, and celebrated this death frenzy. And but then the next day they realized they've done a mistake, and they try to diminish, to make it diminishes, making it smaller, right? And try to use many propaganda methods to do it. They said, no, most of them, the Israeli choppers, IDF choppers, killed while fighting Hamas. And as you mentioned, most of them are militants, or but anyhow, most of the Israelis are serving in the IDF, and many others. No, there were no rapes, there were no beheading, there were no babies killed. Many bullshit. Okay, some people, those who believe in it, choose to believe in it. It's not that.
Yeah, I would agree
It's
with that.
not
And the threshold required for what you believe in, for people that are completely, let's say, partisan on this matter, is different from your side and the other side, right? So again, so if someone says, well, okay, there was a IDF strike on a building, you know, we can't confirm, like your average person can't confirm if there was militants in there or not. So you kind of reserve judgment. But if you're coming from the Palestinian side, it's like, oh, they just blew up a hospital. And they can't understand any nuance involved in why there was a strike on a hospital or a building of any sort. But they don't seem to, so their threshold of how much proof they need is dependent on what story they want to believe, right? So it's not consistent. So they'll need a significant amount of proof to believe anything that happened on October 7th, as opposed to a strike that happened in Gaza, which they're automatically going to jump to the assumption that there was no militants in that building, right, without knowing anything about it. So that's obviously a lack of consistency in terms of the threshold of information or facts you required on any given scenario.
There are
Guys,
claims.
did you read this news from Khamenei right now? He's praising his naval for sending the latest destroyer they made. People are trying to de-escalate the whole region, and he is escalating by sending this. He's talking about the latest destroyer, Dillman. It take its first trip in the sea, I think in the Gulf. So what do you take from that, guys?
Definitely a show of force, right? But you don't see the Americans typically doing that with their new weapons. They don't usually make advertisements for them.
He write it in Arabic. He didn't write it in English, in X. So he's sending messages for his allies, like Hezbollah and others, to show that they're still strong. I tried to find it in English, but they didn't write it in English.
I think the language it's written in means less today than it would have perhaps years ago, right? So to break down what audience they were looking for in regards to that information, or who they were sending that out to, I think is more difficult to pinpoint now. It's easy to translate things now, right? So I'm not sure that's necessarily something important.
To be honest with you, I think it's important because most of the followers of Khamenei from the Arab countries, like Iraq and Syria and Lebanon, like 90%, they didn't even read and write. So he can play it. He can talk to the West in different language and talk to the East in a different language. He's manipulating everybody like that.
Did Nancy have something to say?
Yeah, I was gonna add that I'm not sure, but isn't part of the reason that Hamas can't get in too much like trouble because they're not a country and you can only like I don't know, like accuse countries of things like a country's not
No, they're a
to,
non-state actor. So Israel can go to war with a non-state actor as well.
so is any I don't know, I know that there's a lot of history between like the League of Nations and UNRWA and how Palestine has like taken advantage of being like a permanent refuge. And I don't know, that's I think something that needs to be made to stop.
It's not the one who take the advantage. It's not the Palestinian. It's their leaders and the influence people in their groups.
But if
And
it,
yes, you're right.
but if they are going to call that Hamas, like that's double sided. Like you can't say, you know, red and green are like if someone asks you like what flavor ice cream do you want, this or this, both, you know, as a parent, like no, not
Na-
both. I asked you one.
Nancy, I'm gonna give it from point of view of Arab guy. I am an Arab guy, and I'm gonna give you my point of view about that.
Okay.
If the Palestinians want to solve their own problem with Israel, they could did it 50 years ago. But clearly they don't, because it's a very lucrative case for them. They still taking money from the whole conflict till today. And for Hamas and for even Abbas, they don't give a shit about the Palestinian people. They care about their pockets. So it's a good business for them. Do you want the money to stop? They don't want the money to stop.
So why can't like more pressure be made for that to stop? It really makes no
All right, guys,
sense.
I gotta go jump
Sorry.
in the shower and do some stuff around here. So I'm gonna close out the space. Thank you all for coming today.
Sorry.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for coming, Shahar. Always love hearing from you. And Life and Piotr and Samuel.
Bye, Sean.
You didn't answer my question, Samuel. Urban warfare, no or hell no? I mean, jungle warfare.
I'd prefer jungle over urban.
Fair point. Fair point. But then again, you can die from things in the jungle that have nothing to do with the war itself.
Yeah.